a tree on a eucalypt here. If people know, we're opposite the IMAX. There's a huge eucalypt tree that surrounds us here, and we've actually come up into the canopy of the tree to see if there's anything different that we can see as compared to the ground layer. It was quite interesting that it wasn't until a few years ago when people began to fog the canopy of rainforests that we suddenly found a whole different fauna living up in the trees as compared to down at ground level. We thought that might be the case, but until we did the fogging, it wasn't there. So let's just have a look in here, and immediately I can see here on this eucalypt leaf where it's been curled by a spider. Now, if I pull this open, we'll most likely find a whole lot of webbing inside. So there's quite a few of the leaves, the other one over here, and they make fantastic habitat. You can see here that the leaf normally is a very exposed structure. But you can see here that when it's curled, there's a lovely habitat right down inside for a spider or a caterpillar to live quite happily inside of it. So these are the types of habitats that we're looking at. Now, as I said, I probably would find that this habitat down at ground level, but have a look around us here, and you can see the lots and lots of gumnut. Now, this has had a flower probably about a year ago, and of course, this is the fruit of the plant. Now, the flowers would have brought in an immense number of animals, particularly birds, but also lots and lots of insects and lots of native Australian bees. And then, of course, when you see this, because they have been pollinated, they're all probably nesting, the bees and the wasps and the insects are nesting in the ground around Carlton Gardens. So even just the fact that I can see that they've been pollinated, you can actually see one here, the flower has just about finished. Can you see? I'll pull that one off. Can you see there that it's just finished, the flower? Now, there are all the little stamens at the top, and that's what they need to be able to transfer the pollen from flower to flower. So this whole tree up here, and it's an enormous tree, was probably in flower over the last 12 months. And you can actually see some more flower in here. Can you see it in there? So as I said, these trees are like enormous banquets for lots and lots of insects. You get all of the pollinators coming in, and then you get all the leaf-curling insects coming in, and then you get the parasites that come in and they parasitize the leaf-curling insects. So there's this enormous entree that kind of comes in, and more animals are able to be able to make use of it. I've actually got a piece of bark here, which we took off from around the bottom of the tree, but just have a look at the spider web around that. You can see the thick white, they're egg cases, whereas the loose part there is where the spider would have been hiding, protecting, and also using to be able to catch insects and that. So as I said, egg cases, and then here's there. So that's the kind of stuff. Now normally from the top, that's what you'd see underneath there, but you roll around underneath and there's a whole zoo that just occurs and lives underneath bark and that. So, so trees like this, you particularly need a tree that's 30, 40, 50 years old to be able to start getting bark. So we need these types of large trees. This tree would most likely be 100, probably even 200 years old from the size of it. It's got lots of holes in it. On the other side, we found a wild honeybee hive within the actual hollow of one of the trees there. So they would have been one of the pollinators that came in here. But a magnificent tree, gives us lots of shade, but it just, as I said, is a banquet for so many insects. Let's have a little look. I can see other stuff up here. If I pull this down here for you, you can see how the types of leaves have been eaten around here, and that's probably a beetle that has eaten this. So as I said, instead of the leaf developing the whole way, you can see here a ridge is just beginning to form with this leaf here. So what happens is that an insect stings it, basically, and then that causes it to curl, and then it goes from that, as we saw, all the way to the fully curled leaf on something like that. You know, there's just so much you can see. If I have a look over here, I can see where insect damage has occurred along the stem of the plant, and often these are sap-sucking insects. I'm just looking for galls. You can almost, oh, here's a lovely case. Here's a case where, in fact, I can tell you even the name of the species of the moth. You see how that has been skeletonized. The leaf hasn't been eaten from the edge in, just the top layer has been skeletonized. And can you see the tracks? You can actually see the tracks of where the moth caterpillar has gone along and eaten. It's a thing called Uraba lugens, and it's a small hairy caterpillar, and if you touch it, you do get urticating hairs and bits of stinging underneath you there. But as I said, that's a classic sign of skeletonizers. Indeed, you can go to a leaf, you can go to a tree and look at the different types of feeders. As I said, that's a skeletonizer. Then you'll find other cases where things like beetles or grasshoppers have chewed an entire section out of the leaf and that. So over here, you can see where this is most likely a bit of fungal or disease in the leaf there. You can see how it's got a spotting on it here. Here's another case of the Uraba lugens, where the skeletonizing caterpillar has eaten the chunk out of that leaf here. There's just so much you could actually go up. I actually call it, I read the tree. The tree tells me what has happened to it over the last couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and even a couple of years. So I can't find any galls. Normally, you would find associated with a large eucalypt galls, and galls is where, here's another case of a skeletonizer over here. You can see the example there. Normally, you'll find galls, and that's where an insect stings the actual plant tissue, and then it irritates the plant, and the plant reacts by building more tissue around it, which is, of course, exactly what the grub of the animal, either a fly or a wasp, wants it to do on that. So, here's a little other case here where we've got something feeding on the leaf there. Here's a case there. So as I said, walk up to your leaves and that. Now, the nice thing is that we've probably, if you have a look around here, we've probably had to go up 30 metres just to be able to start to see what's happening in this tree. It's such an old and big tree that everything's happening up here. Now, the question is this fauna the same as what's down the ground level? And I would suspect not. It just simply wouldn't be there. You need these types of heights. So these magnificent trees are a reservoir for our local and native. There's most likely possums come into it at night time. As I said before, when the flower, when the buds are in flower, the lorikeets and the birds will be coming in. Indeed, behind, I can see a lot of flower there right now. You can see it over there. There's some nice large remnants. And on the far side, I can see a large blowfly on that leaf. If I can come across over here, and I'll bring this very slowly over. Can you see that taliphorid fly on the end there of the leaf? So, yeah, there's just a menagerie, or kind of a zoo that occurs in these trees. They really are a lot of fun to go and see. So you can do this with any tree. You haven't got to be 30 metres up at the cherry picker to be able to do this. Walk up to any tree, particularly a eucalypt tree. And indeed, one of the fun things I often do with school children is I walk up to a eucalypt leaf and I say, I'll give you $2 if you can find me a single leaf that hasn't been attacked by insects. And of course, I still haven't lost a $2 coin. Almost every leaf gets attacked because it's a native Australian plant, and so many animals, in particular insects, have grown up in conjunction with it and that. So walk out to your backyard and have a look. Look at these ones over here. Almost all of these leaves here have been curled. And they're just great habitat for lots and lots of other insects that will live inside of that, getting complete protection from parasites, from predators, and it's got a very safe home. So lots of fun. Walk up to your tree and have a look. This is really what we're doing with the Melbourne Bioblitz. We're simply having a look at what occurs within the Melbourne CBD. It's a joint venture between Museum Victoria and the City of Melbourne. We did it 2 years ago and found some fascinating stuff. Now we're looking very locally, as I said, just for having a good look at this large tree opposite Museum Victoria and just seeing what occurs on one tree. And then you can begin to think, well, what else occurs then? If this occurs on one tree, you begin to think, well, what about Melbourne-wide? What about Victoria-wide? What about Australia-wide? So much can be learned just from one tree. I hope that's given you a bit of an insight, a bit of fun. I'll probably spend another hour or two looking at this, and I advise you to just go in your backyard, go down to your local park, Come into the city of Melbourne, do a bit of a Bioblitz. We've got a whole day here. We've got tents set up. We've got lots of live animals on display. We've got live video feeds of animals and that. And then there's lots of the experts here, including the fungi. People from Fungi Dap are here as well. So come on down. Come and have a chat with us, and we'll have a lovely day. Thanks for listening. Bye.